Welcome back to the Kino Cave, guys, and today I'm back with Costuminig Chronicles, and today is the turn of Supergirl. So I love Supergirl, Superman's angry, angsty cousin who likes to go to other planets and get drunk. Yeah, that's about where I'm at. And I am incredibly excited for the Supergirl movie coming out. Though I do have my reservations, I think I'll save it for the end. My little thoughts in anticipation of that movie. But I thought, since we're anticipating that movie coming out this summer, probably one of my most anticipated of the year, I would do a Costuminig Chronicles on Supergirl. I thought this video was going to be easy. It's not. People do not want to talk about Supergirl's costumes, despite there being a few of them. So, as always, guys, with these videos, I'm going to quickly cover the comic book origins of Supergirl's design before getting into the cinematic and, in this case, TV adaptations of her suit. Supergirl was created by Otto Binder and Al Plastino, very similar sounding name to a certain actor, and she debuted in Action Comics number 252 in May 1959. And I really couldn't find much from the creators, unfortunately, on the specific design of Supergirl. If you guys have any information at all, please drop a comment down below and let me know. If you have any other info, make sure you put some credited sources in there so I can fact check you and make sure that you're not lying to me. Because I genuinely want to know. I want to know, is there anything that I missed in my research here? Because, you know, I'm not perfect. What I did find is that apparently the look of Supergirl did reflect the 60s teenage fashion of the time. And after a quick Google search, because I don't know anything about women's fashion in the 60s, it seems to be true. The kind of thigh-length skirt with the long-sleeve blouse on top of it. However, it is also worth mentioning that this is Superman's costume with a skirt. It's not that much more complicated than that. I find it interesting that the skirt is blue. As you might come to find in my criticisms of later Supergirl costumes, I'm not a fan of, like, too much blue, you know, without it being broken up more. So I found that interesting, but otherwise, yeah, it's a pretty classic look. And you know what? It doesn't need changing that much. I think Supergirl's suit is as iconic as Superman's. So, moving on from that, let's get into the cinematic adaptations of Supergirl, beginning with Supergirl 1984. Have you fucking seen this movie? It is dreadful, although I kind of love how dreadful it is. It's pretty funny in that way. Although I do love Helen Slater's performance as Supergirl, and I love the costume in this movie, but more on that in a minute. So Emma Porteous was the costume designer on Supergirl, and I could not find any information or interviews or anything like that with her on the design of the suit that ended up in the movie. Emma Porteous is also known for Aliens, The Living Daylights, and Judge Dredd, so some pretty cool work, you know, in her tenure as a costume designer. And, you know, I love Aliens, and I like the costuming of the James Bond movies, so sure, get her to do a Supergirl movie. That's awesome. The only thing that, you know, everybody knows about the Supergirl movie is that the original costume design had a red headband and some other specific kinds of changes. And for a little bit of brand synergy before it was cool, the comics Supergirl was redesigned to reflect this costume in the, you know, just before shooting began for the film. And this is famously the costume that she died in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So she is immortalized by this dreadful costume in the comic books. And it doesn't look much better on the big screen. So thankfully they changed it to a more classic look. This is set in the world of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, so of course it's got to reflect that. The way it did back in 1959, it is Superman's costume, but translated for a teenage girl. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I love this costume. It might be the best one still. Just as Christopher Reeve's Superman costume is kind of still the best one, and I don't think it'll ever be topped, because it's just kind of perfect. Helen Slater fills it out very well. It's just the classic, the cape, the S, the red skirt, and the boots. So, moving on, 30 years later, to the CW Supergirl show. I don't think there's been a live action Supergirl. Smallville fans, don't at me, alright? These are not costumes. And I had a quick look. I don't think I'm going to find any behind the scenes info on the inspiration of the red and blue sports gear. Alright, so let's move swiftly on to the CW show where Supergirl gets an actual costume. And Colleen Atwood is the costume designer for, I think, all of these shows, actually, which is super awesome. She basically defined superhero costumes on TV for kids like me, for people who grew up with these shows like I did. So that's fucking awesome. I love Colleen Atwood. And some of her other notable works are Edward Scissorhands, Fantastic Beasts, and One Battle After Another, which came out just last year and is a top awards contender this year. So good on you, Colleen Atwood. Now, thankfully, I did find some information on the creation of this suit. So Atwood stated when this costume was kind of first revealed that she wanted to embrace the past, as well as, more importantly, thrust her into the street style action hero of today. And, you know, little bits of information about the creation of the suit. The chest emblem was like inked on so that it can kind of stretch and move with the suit. And the suit was also designed to look good in flight, and the emblem specifically. And they would actually have Melissa, I really apologize for the pronunciation of this. I think it's Benoist or Benoit or something. I'm going to go with Benoist, but I do apologize if that's wrong, which it probably is. But they had her lie flat, like on like a table, and look at the costume that way so that it would look good when she's flying around in the show. So before I talk about the redesign in season 5, I'll quickly give my thoughts on this Supergirl costume, and I love it. I think it is great. I think it's a bit dark for Supergirl, but I still think it works. I like the idea of the S on her chest having the yellow kind of border, but it being taken out of like the inside of the S. I think, you know, it separates her from Superman very well. It's just something a little bit different to differentiate her again. And the little kind of hand wrap thing that goes over her thumb on the at the end of the arm. I'm struggling to find things here. But yeah, and I like the way the cape hangs and the way it moves, and, you know, the skirt is like the perfect length and the perfect color, and, you know, great material and that. And the kind of darker tights, I think that works well as well. I like the way the suit kind of comes together in that way. So yeah, no, it's pretty awesome Supergirl suit in live action. However, it was changed in season 5. Melissa had always campaigned for pants. Not just, you know, not for any, like, you know, sexist reason or anything like that. It gets cold in Vancouver, which is totally understandable. So she wanted pants from like day one, but she understood why the skirt was, you know, the classic look that everybody wanted to see. However, in season 5, they finally relented and let her do the pants, and everybody kind of agreed that at this point Supergirl is a bit more adult, and the pants kind of reflect that. Yeah, I understand the choice. I understand the idea of making her look a bit more adult and a bit less like a teenager, which is what the skirt kind of, you know, makes it feel like, I suppose. And yeah, I think that this suit is fine. I like the color, and I like the symbol and the logo and all that. It could be a little bit bigger maybe, but the only thing, I get the pants, alright? I get why, but it's too much blue. It's too uniform. I think it just doesn't really work. You need to break it up with some red. Even do Supergirl suit with the trunks or something like that. You know, do like a nice kind of feminine look with the trunks. Just something to break up that blue. And that is it for the television show Supergirl. Time to move on to her next on-screen look in The Flash from 2023. And once again, I could not find anything on the costume design in The Flash. Alexandra Byrne did the costume design for this movie, and she's no stranger to superheroes. She worked on Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange, and Fantastic Four First Steps. So she is no stranger to superheroes. However, a lot of these later MCU movies, as we know from our Marvel Costuming Chronicles, were not designed by the costume designer. So maybe that carried over to DC as well. Maybe there's a head honcho there that I just don't know the name of, who is designing all of these things in the background. I doubt it because DC was still a mess at this point. But Alexander Byrne, the only thing I could really, get on the production of the Supergirl suit is that she is a big advocate for hand sewn costumes over like 3D printing and synthetic and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, totally. Big ups to her for that. So I will quickly give my thoughts on this Supergirl suit as well, and I really like it. I think it is great. I think it's a perfect translation from the Man of Steel, Henry Cavill Superman look to Supergirl. I like the red kind of going over the shoulders, and I like the chest emblem and all that. I think that all works very well. Once again, the bottom half, it's too much blue. Give us like thigh-high red boots or something like that, or at least like something of a trunk. There's just too much blue on the bottom, unfortunately. I just don't think it works very well. However, I do think it is a nice translation from the Man of Steel look to a Supergirl look. And Sasha Kai fills out the suit very well as well. And so the costume designer for the new Supergirl movie is Anna B. Shepard, who is known for Schindler's List, Captain America the First Avenger, and Maleficent. So some great costuming work there. I love the costumes in Captain America the First Avenger, and I think the costumes in Maleficent are very good as well. And, Schindler's List is what it is, a bunch of Nazi uniforms, so not much more to say there. But, yeah, I love this Supergirl suit. I think it is the best since Helen Slater, probably. It's got a classic look to it, but it also reflects the David Corn Sweat design as well. It's kind of like apples to oranges, but I do think that this Supergirl suit is better than the Superman suit in the DCU. I think the Superman suit has a lot of problems, but I think the Supergirl suit is perfect. Millie Alcock fills it very well. I love the belt, the classic gold belt. I love the skirt. Much better than the skirt that they show at the end of Superman. There are little differences between the two costumes, between the end of Superman and this Supergirl movie. I think the Supergirl one is leagues ahead. Of course, we have that same chest emblem from the Superman movie because you gotta keep the House of L symbol the same. And the cape works, and I love her like big overcoat as well that she wears over it for when she's being a bit more low-key. So I am super excited, to see this suit in action in the film. I do have my reservations about this movie. Look, I'll put it this way. Every time James Gunn opens his mouth, I feel like he should really start closing it more often. When I saw the writer and director for this film and saw that the story that they were basing it off of was Woman of Tomorrow, I got incredibly excited. I've since read Woman of Tomorrow, and it is a brilliant comic book with incredible artwork. When I was looking into the who was working on this film, I got very excited. Craig Gillespie, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I love a lot of his body of work, and I got super excited to, see what they could do with a Supergirl movie. And then the trailer comes out, and it looks like a cross between Superman and Guardians of the Galaxy. And then James Gunn starts talking about how it's going to feel more like Guardians of the Galaxy. James, I like your stuff, but I don't want every DCU movie to be a James Gunn film. I wanted the, direction of I, Tonya. I want I, Tonya set in a world that looks like Annihilation. Rob Hardy is the cinematographer for this movie. That's the kind of thing that I want. I don't just want Supergirl in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So, I don't know, please just give me I, Tonya, but in space with superheroes. That's the kind of thing that I want from this kind of movie. I want this edgy, dirty, grimy film about an angsty 23-year-old who has turned her back on the universe that has let her down. That is what I want. I want the vibes of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. It feels beautiful but also gritty. So I don't want Guardians of the Galaxy crossed with Superman again. So I don't know. We have one trailer, and I don't like watching a bunch of trailers before movies. So I might watch the next one and maybe the one after that, and then I'm gonna stop with all the marketing stuff. I have my reservations, but I still have high hopes that Supergirl can be one of the best superhero movies yet. and hopefully the best female-led superhero movie yet. With all that said, guys, that is the Costuming Chronicles for Supergirl. A bit of a short one, you know, not a whole lot of information out there, unfortunately, for the Woman of Tomorrow, or the Girl of Steel, whatever you want to call it. So if you liked this video, please give it a like and comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the Supergirl Costuming Chronicles. What are your hopes for Supergirl 2025, 2026? Fucking hell. It's 2026 now. What are your hopes for Supergirl in 2026? And let me know what your favorite Supergirl look has been down through the years. Let me know. Is it Helen Slater? Is it Sasha Calle? Is it Melissa Benoist? Let me know your thoughts and subscribe for more videos like this one. I hope you all have a great day, guys. I'll see you in the movies.